Thank you again for joining. My name's Colin Hutchison. I'm a product manager here at the National Student Clearinghouse. And today what we're going to focus on is kicking off the implementation process to joining the Tennessee Electronic Transcript Exchange. Before we get started, as I already mentioned to some of you, if you have any questions, feel free to enter them in the chat throughout the presentation. We currently have your lines muted, but we will open the lines when we get to the later part of today's webinar for questions and further discussion with all of you. So for today's presentation, we're first going to start off by talking about the Tennessee Electronic Transcript Exchange itself and just clarifying for those of you who maybe signed up a couple weeks ago, or perhaps someone else at your school or your district signed up and sort of handed this off to you. We want to make sure that you're aware of what this is that you're joining and the great program that we're providing to your high schools and your school districts. And with that being said, we're going to touch on some benefits realized by one of the early adopters of the exchange, just share with you some things that they were able to experience and benefits. Then we'll actually dive into the implementation process, what that entails at a high level, and each of the specific phases, just so you're aware of the process you're about to embark on and what's expected of you. We'll talk a little bit about your SIS systems and how to run file extracts from your SIS systems. I'm going to touch on common data errors so you're aware of what to look out for and what we might encounter. I'm going to demo the FTP upload process, so I'll actually walk through uploading to the FTP site so you're aware of what that looks and feels like. And then, like I said, we're going to open up the lines and we can talk openly as a group about any questions you have and answer those. And last, we'll just wrap everything up with your immediate next steps leaving today's webinar. So the Tennessee Electronic Transcript Exchange is being provided in partnership with Tennessee Higher Education Commission and us, the National Student Clearinghouse. So the Tennessee Higher Education Commission and Suzette Telly is on the line from THeck with us here today. Suzette, do you want to say hi?
Hello.
So Suzette, for those of you who aren't aware of THeck or that's who Suzette is, just to let you know, she's working very closely with us. So if at any point you want to reach out to THeck, know that that's also an avenue you can take and communicate any challenges you might be facing with THeck and through Suzette. And she's happy to work with us and working with us in quite close proximity to keep things moving forward smoothly. But the clearinghouse, our role in this is to actually provide the technology and provide the platform for you to do this statewide exchange. So what is the Tennessee Electronic Transcript Exchange? Well, it's a web-based application for the secure and electronic exchange of high school transcripts. So beyond just sending transcripts from high school to high school within the state and also high school to post-secondary schools, which is really the root of what we're trying to get to here and provide to you, know that although there's Tennessee in the name of this program, our application will let you send transcripts outside of the state to your neighboring states like Kentucky and Georgia, but also all the way across the country. So know that you can use the application, and we encourage you to use the application for all of your transcript exchange needs. Now, the other thing I want to point out is that the Tennessee Lottery GPA is something that we will help you with submitting to THeck at the end of the year. We've integrated our system with THeck and TSAC such that you should no longer have to do manual submission of your students' final transcripts to TSAC through the eGrant system once you join the Tennessee Electronic Transcript Exchange. What will actually happen is as you upload your graduates' transcripts at the end of the year, we will automatically send just the necessary data to TSAC and do that reporting for you. So I want to touch on a couple benefits recognized by one of our early adopters, and that was actually Mount Juliet High School. And just to tell you a little bit of a story leading into all of this, Missy Pyle at Mount Juliet High School relayed to us that previously, prior to joining the exchange, she would collect students' requests for transcripts to be sent to other locations by a form that sat on a front desk in the counseling office, much like the one right here. So as you can see, this form allowed for up to 24 students to submit their requests of transcripts to be sent to up to 3 different colleges. And the reason I bring that up is because in order for her to go about actually processing those requests for only 24 students, that actually ate up 200 minutes of her time, or almost half her workday. So again, we're only talking about 24 students in this case, as opposed to the 500 students that she graduates each year, 94% of which are college-bound. So as you can see, that really grows into how much time it takes her to do manual transcript processing before joining the exchange. Beyond that, in addition to time, you know that there are material resources in order to print and mail all of those transcripts. So about 5,000 pieces of paper were needed annually, 1,400 envelopes, ink, and $700 worth in postage. The great news is that since Missy joined the exchange and Mount Juliet High School joined the exchange, that in terms of time, that same process for processing 24 student transcript requests now only takes 10 minutes. That's a 95% reduction in the amount of time to do the exact same task. And all of those material resources that she needed to use in order to send transcripts, she no longer needs to use. So I hope you're going to recognize many of the same benefits that Missy recognized at Mount Juliet High School, but it even goes beyond just time and paper and material savings. The great news is that hopefully we feel like that as you gain some of your time back, you can engage in more meaningful relationships with your students, counsel them better, and also help them onto the path of a positive post-secondary education experience. So to jump into the onboarding process at a really high level, there are 4 distinct stages that we want to make you aware of and cover today. The good news is the first stage, signing the agreement, all of you have completed, so you don't have to worry about that one, only 3 left to go. The testing phase, which I'll detail each of these next, is the next phase, which we're about to start. The reason there's a testing phase, I want to touch on that real briefly, is that because you're sending us such important student information and sensitive student information, your students' transcripts, we want to make sure that you have the opportunity before coming into our live environment and starting to send transcripts to other institutions. We want to make sure you have the opportunity to review that data and ensure that it's accurate and it's complete. So that's the whole intent of the testing phase. Once you let us know that everything looks good, we'll move into the activation phase, which is essentially just setting you up in our production environment and getting you ready to go live. So the testing phase, during this phase, it's important to know that when you need assistance and want to reach out to us, contact us at implementation@studentclearinghouse.org, and that will be the best way of getting you in touch with your implementation rep or even a backup in case someone's out of the office. Additionally, I want to point out that there are 2 different accounts you're going to interact with during this testing phase, and the URLs for those accounts are provided here. The FTP account, in fact, is something that each of you should have received credentials to in the past couple of days. So when those accounts were created, you would have received 2 emails from secureftp@studentclearinghouse.org or ftpadmin@studentclearinghouse.org. And the reason you received 2 emails is that they separately provide a temporary password and your username to access that FTP account. So one thing you can do after leaving this call, if you haven't done so already, is actually go and locate that email and log into your FTP account. That temporary password, as the name implied, is in fact temporary. So the sooner you log in and create your own password, the better. If you don't find those emails in your inbox, please be sure to also check your spam or junk mail folders. So the first step here is that you're going to receive those FTP login credentials, which you should have already received. And then the next task is to use your student information system and create a ZAP file. So when I talk about your student information system, just in case you're not familiar with that language, for those of you that have joined us today, I understand we have users of PowerSchool, Skyward, and EduPoint on the call. Those are the systems that we're talking about. And I want to also clarify, when we talk about ZAP, you may or may not be familiar with the state previously providing a ZAP product to all of the high schools and school districts in the state. That is not what we're talking about here. All that we're leveraging is ZAP's file format, but not the program itself. So you don't need to worry about accessing that product that's no longer available to you. Once you go and run that ZAP file extract from your student information system, then the next thing you need to do is simply log into your FTP account and upload the file. So you don't need to worry about actually looking at the file, opening it, understanding how the data is structured within it, because it's a very data-heavy file. We don't really have that expectation of you. Just run the ZAP extract and upload it to us. We've worked with each of your SIS vendors to ensure that the data should be coming into us accurately and completely, and tested with many of other high schools in the state with your similar SIS systems. When you upload the file to us, within an hour, you should receive an email from our system that gives you a response as to whether or not that file was able to load to our system successfully. So this fourth box you may or may not encounter. If your file uploaded successfully, we'll just move you on to the next step. If for whatever reason we ran into some errors and the file failed, we will reach out to you and provide guidance and clarification as to what those errors are and how to go about resolving them. And if you don't receive that email within the hour, please do reach out to us, because there may or may not have been some sort of configuration setup issue, and we'll want to look at that as soon as possible to identify if there's a problem. When we receive your file successfully, that's when we're going to give you access to the second account that you'll access during this testing phase, which is to our Tennessee Transcript Center application. So notice that I said you only have access to your FTP account right now, and we haven't yet sent you the credentials to your Tennessee Transcript Center account. As we go through this entire implementation process, you will actually interact with 4 separate accounts. At any time, you'll only actually need access to 2 of them, but we're only going to give you access to those accounts as needed. When you log into the Tennessee Transcript Center account, then the next step for you will be to log in and review the transcripts for accuracy. Like I said, during the testing process, the whole intent here is to get your data over to us and for you to then verify that everything looks right. You'll provide your feedback to us on whether or not the data is accurate, and hopefully we'll move on to the activation phase and you'll say that everything looks good. But if not, and you identify something that looks a little off, just let us know. We'll work with you, and we'll work with your SIS vendor to see if there's something that needs to be done to resolve the issue. So for the activation phase, if you've already taken a glimpse at the flow at the bottom, you may have noticed, hey, this looks very much the same, and you're right. This process is exactly the same as it is in testing. The only difference for this phase is that you're now interacting with our production environment. So in the testing phase, you're touching accounts in our test environment, and in activation, and once you're live, you're interacting with our production environment. During this phase, continue to contact us at implementation@studentclearinghouse.org if you need any guidance or assistance. And the URLs for the production environments are provided here, but you don't yet have access to these accounts. We haven't created them for you yet. So the first step when we move you over to this phase is that you're going to receive new FTP login credentials to the production environment. and then you'll either create a new ZAP file and upload it to that FTP account, or if very little time's passed from you going through the testing phase and moving on to the activation phase, you could very likely just submit the previous ZAP file that you did into testing into production, because it's unlikely that very much student data changed from maybe a week. When you upload the file to the FTP account, again, our system's going to process the file and you should receive a response within an hour. And this fourth block in the activation phase, we almost always expect you shouldn't receive any sort of failure notice, because you're submitting the same cohort and the same file type that you've already submitted in the testing phase, and now you're submitting it to production where there are the same validations on our end. So we don't expect to all of a sudden be surprised by new errors that we didn't see previously. When your file loads successfully, we'll create your access to the production version of the Tennessee Transcript Center account. And you'll log in, and always as a best practice, during activation and once you're even live, whenever you upload new data, we encourage you to take a look at the data and ensure that everything still looks right. If everything looks good, then we'll move you on to being fully live with the product. And at that point, if you need any support ongoing with the Tennessee Electronic Transcript Exchange, please reach out to us at k-20transcripts@studentclearinghouse.org. But you're not going to receive any new accounts at this point. You're going to remain using the production accounts, so you'll continue to interact with the production environment once you're live. And in fact, when you do move over to the production accounts, we encourage you, if you perhaps saved or bookmarked any of the staging URLs, to go ahead and delete those so you don't accidentally log in there again or upload a file there when you're supposed to be over in production. The first step of going live is you'll receive an activation email, which includes 3 key things. The first thing in that email is we advise you to provide us with any additional users if need be, because we don't expect you to be a one-man or a one-woman show over on your end. And especially if you're at a district, we understand that you more than likely need staff at the high schools to have a day-to-day role in sending transcripts rather than someone that's a tech administrator at the district office. The second thing in the email is a link to our training tutorials. We encourage you to look at the training tutorials as a first step to becoming more acquainted with the application and learning how it functions. The training tutorials are short and task-oriented. They're each about 3 to 4 minutes long. And for instance, one of them walks you through the step-by-step process of sending a student's transcript. And the last thing in that email is a HTML link that a web administrator on your end can add to your website to direct your current students, and more importantly, probably your alumni, to order online at their own leisure, as opposed to having to call you, email you, come into the office or the building to go and request their transcript. So we've talked about quite a bit, and I just want to provide a high-level representation of the different interactions and touch points with the application. So here, starting all the way at the left, you as a high school user or a district user, as we mentioned, you're going to interact with your student information system and run that ZAP extract and generate a transcript data file. You will then log into your FTP account to upload that data file. The Transcript Center will come and pick up the file and load it into the Tennessee Transcript Center. And once your data is there, starting all the way at the top, your high school alumni and even your current students can go to orderatranscript.com to order their transcript 24/7, 365 without having to walk into your office. Additionally, as I mentioned before, whenever you upload your students' final transcripts once they graduate, their final transcript information, like Tennessee Lottery GPA and their identifying information in your high school, will be sent over to THeck and THeck in lieu of you manually logging into eGrants and submitting all that information. As needed, your high school staff, maybe your counselors or your registrar, will log into the Tennessee Transcript Center and send transcripts to where they need to go. And in many cases, we're going to deliver those transcripts electronically to the post-secondary institutions and even other educational organizations such as NCAA Eligibility Center. So in terms of setting up your data and running the extract out of your student information system, your student information system has provided and created guidance documents to walk you through that process, but ultimately we're here to help. So if you have any questions, please let us know, and we'd be more than happy to work with you and your student information system to make sure that you get the guidance you need. Ultimately, throughout this whole process, an open line of communication is key, because if we don't know that you're looking for something, then we just can't help you. So please let us know if there's something that's unclear and we can provide any clarification. One thing I sent last night to each of you was your specific resources for your student information system. So in the case of the Skyward users, in that email I provided a hyperlink to a web-hosted document that they have online that walks through the data setup and the extract process. For the PowerSchool users, that was a PDF attachment in the email that, again, walks through much of the same information on how to run that extract. And the only thing different for the EduPoint users is that my contact at EduPoint let us know when they went and put the extract together, they actually had distributed the documentation to the district coordinators for each district that uses EduPoint. So if you're unaware, as a first point of contact, we recommend that you reach out to your district coordinator or SIS administrator, and they should have already been provided with documentation. But let us know, and we'll be more than happy, again, to work with you and work with EduPoint to make sure you get what you need and we can help move you forward. So reach out to us at implementation@studentclearinghouse.org if you need assistance. Now, when you're going about creating these data files, I know I mentioned that we've worked with your SIS vendors to make sure that the files are able to be uploaded successfully into our system, but the reason we might run into some errors are when there are specific key pieces of data missing from the file in different areas. So here are the 5 most prevalent errors that we've run into, and they really are in basically rank order from most prevalent to least. The first being that we occasionally receive incomplete student home addresses, meaning that we're missing either city, state, zip, or street address, or any combination or all of those fields. And the same goes for your high school address. So make sure that your student addresses are complete within your student information system, and also make sure that your high school is properly configured with the address complete. Speaking about your high school being completely configured correctly, CBAC code is the next up error that we run into. So this is your high school's SAT or ACT school code. And it's important that that's configured within your student information system. That's key for our system to recognize what high school this data pertains to and where we need to load the data. And beyond that, it's also imperative so that we can get your data over to THeck for the eGrants piece. They match up the data we're sending over to them based on the CBAC code as well. The last 2 are things that we very seldomly run into, but they're still the more prevalent things that we've encountered. So in some cases, we're receiving student records without any GPA values. And the important factor to take away here is that we at least need to receive some form of GPA. That can be a locally weighted GPA, your unweighted GPA, or the Tennessee Uniform Lottery GPA. And the reason I bold-faced fonted the Uniform Lottery GPA is because, again, that's another key piece of information to make sure you provide if you wish to take advantage of our integration with THeck, because that's a necessary piece of information for them to do the lottery scholarship evaluation. And last, sort of oddly, we've received a number of courses occasionally where there are no grades. And initially, when I saw this error coming across, I thought it may have been related to current coursework, but once I started to dive in and identify the courses that didn't have grades, oddly enough, it came to be that 99% of them were actually previous courses from prior years that, for whatever reason, didn't have any grade tied to it. So it's important to make sure that any of those previous courses do, in fact, have grades. So now I just want to walk you through and demonstrate what the experience is like uploading to the FTP account, which is that first account that you already should have login credentials to. So I'm just going to log in real quick. And when you log in, the site looks very basic, and that's intentional because when you come to your FTP account, there's only one purpose. It's for you to securely send your data to us, the National Student Clearinghouse, and set it up into the Tennessee Transcript Center application. So the only function you need to be worried about when you log into this site is this area under Upload Files. When you log in initially, you will be prompted to create a permanent password. And then after that, you may also be prompted to install what's called an Upload-Download Wizard. Whether or not you decide to download or install the Upload-Download Wizard is up to you. The main thing with the Upload-Download Wizard is it just changes your experience for uploading the files. So in this case, since I enabled the Upload-Download Wizard, you see this Launch the Upload Wizard button. If you choose not to install it, all that you're going to see differently is you'll see simply a Browse button, much like you would with many other web applications when you're going to upload some sort of document. So you'll see a Browse button. You select the Browse button. It opens a window where you can locate and select your file, and then you select Upload. It's fairly straightforward. In this case, I'll walk through using the wizard. So I select Launch the Upload Wizard, which opens this wizard window. And then if I want to upload a file, I can either drag and drop the file onto this white space, or I can select Add File, which opens a new window for me to look for the file I want to upload, select Open, and once it's in the white space, select Upload. Rather quickly, as you saw, it'll go and process and upload the file to your FTP account. And that's really all you need to do. So once it's uploaded, like I said, that's really when the clock starts, and anywhere between a couple of minutes, I've honestly seen a file process from upload all the way through to the system in a matter of 4 minutes before, to no longer than an hour, you should receive that email notification with whether or not your file loaded successfully. But from there, especially since you're new users, you've never seen these emails before, we don't expect you to understand what's in those emails and know what to do next. So please just bear with us. We will reach back out to you and let you know what your next steps are after uploading. So we're now going to unmute your lines, and I hope this has been informative to you, but I'd like to open it up for open discussion, and also if we have any questions in the chat, we're happy to address those now. Just